Hello there, welcome to Critical Reviews. Going to have a look at Alien Earth, episode 6. We start off with Wendy. She's talking to the baby Xeno that they've created. Looks very cute. While that's going on, Cavalier is reading more Peter Pan, basically, over the top of the scene. We see the sheep eye alien looking at a alarm light, and then at the flies, and Kirsch and Joe are watching Wendy talk to the alien. Now, she's talking to the alien or communicating with the alien, but she's just repeating what the alien is saying. You can't learn a language like that. You have to know what the translation is. It's like if I went to Japan and I just start parroting the Japanese back at them. How this is a basis for communication, I don't know, but yeah, apparently she's communicating to the alien. Kirsch says she killed an adult male single-handed. So much for the alien being female. And then Joe is basically quizzing Kirsch for details about Wendy's body. Not like that. And so, Kirsch says, they can go 2 years without charging. And Joe's like, okay, is there any other maintenance? And Kirsch says, you know that they're not going to let you take her. She's got greater things ahead of her than being part of your family. He mentioned that she could invent faster than light travel, for example. This is her potential. And the scene ends there. We then go to Nibs, and how I've managed to go a whole episode without knowing whether or not Nibs is actually pregnant, I don't know, but I managed it. It was tough. And she's sort of unconscious on a gurney, with like light bits around her head. They're studying her. Sylvia says it's not a mechanical fault. There's something inside. And Atom comes in and says, can she hear us? Arthur turns around and goes, no, she's in charging mode. She can't hear us. Why have you got her in charging mode? 2 episodes ago, you showed us that you can disable their auditory perception at any given stage because you did it with Wendy. So why is she in charging mode? You've just said that their batteries can last for 2 years. This is the problem with, I presume the writers talk to each other when they make the show. But this is the problem when you have people that write in individual episodes. And unfortunately, this all falls on Noah Hawley, because Noah Hawley's job as showrunner is to make sure this shit works. But it doesn't, because they contradict themselves. So 2 episodes ago, they could just turn off the hearing of the hybrids. Now, we've got her in charging mode, so she can't hear us. Make it make sense. Anyway, Sylvia says that basically there's trauma in Nib's past. I can't remember what her actual name is now, to be honest. Nor do I particularly care. And they knew this when they picked her as a candidate. She's like, look, I can work on this. I just need time. Atom just turns around and says, no, reset her. Go in, purge all of the memories that have caused the problem, and reset her to before she was before they went on the ship. There's a little bit of consternation about having to do this, and Arthur just flat out says no. Sylvia says yes. Atom says, right, Arthur, you're fired. You've got to the end of the day to get out. If you don't get off the island by the end of the day, then we're going to shoot you. Okay, fair enough. End of that scene. There's no way that Arthur could do anything. You've just threatened to shoot the guy if he doesn't get out, but you're going to let him run around. You're telling me he wouldn't have just called security straight away and says, look, security comes in, they are going to escort you off the island right now, and we'll send you your shit. No, they're just going to let him carry on, and that'll come into play later in a really stupid way. So there's a scene between Joe and Wendy after Wendy's been talking to the alien, and they're talking about the nature of the alien. Joe saying, look, they're killers. You can't trust them. Cavalier is happy to let you talk to them, find out what they're going to say, but they're killers. And then Wendy says, no, I think the alien can be good. I swear to God, if there is domestic alien by the end of this show, well, the worst thing is I won't actually be surprised. Anyway, carrying on. We then go to a scene between Prodigy and Yutani with a mediator. And basically, it's almost like a legal scene. You've got this mediator who's like, look, we're trying to find a solution. Cavalier's there. He's got his dirty feet up on the table, his bare feet. Yutani, all prim and proper. He's just wearing, whatever he wears, like something like a pajamas of some description. And Yutani's like, look, we'll pay 20 billion in reparations. And there's like a weird little haggling scene. And then she's like, look, we'll pay 50 billion if you give us back the specimens. And Cavalier's like, yep, that's fine, we'll do that. And Yutani's like, aha, I've got you. But then Cavalier says, obviously once the quarantine's expired, which like a certain amount of time, it's 6 weeks or something. And he's got her over a barrel, basically, and she knows it. She knows that he's got one over on her. He's just got 50 billion for his company, and she'll get the aliens, but they're going to get to do everything they want to do in the meantime with the aliens. What I want to say here, though, is that Morrow is standing there. He has information that will instantly end this in Weyland-Yutani's favour, in that he has seen and presumably downloaded from the Maginot. I mean, we could say he just downloaded the information about the aliens, but I find it unlikely he wouldn't get the rest anyway. But he has information that Prodigy conspired with Petrovich. It was Petrovich. He has information that Cavalier conspired with Petrovich, and how Petrovich knew Cavalier existed, I don't know, because it's a 65-year mission and Cavalier's 23 years old. But we won't get into that right now. How he has that information, because he's loyal to Yutani from what we can see, because straight after this, he has a scene with Yutani where he says, look, we can still sort this out. We can still, make this work. And Yutani's like, what's your recommendation? And he says, look, what we need to do to stabilise the facility, go in, exfil in the confusion. And she's like, yeah, okay, make it happen. Why they have this conversation immediately and not later, I don't know. But anyway, there's then a scene between Morrow and Kirsch in the elevator. And it's actually quite a good scene because Kirsch is saying, like, you're a part machine that hates machines. You're not a real machine. And Morrow's saying, look, well, you're an obsolete toy. You're an obsolete android. And there's a bit of like back and forth, passive aggressive stuff there. That's just two actors that can act, playing characters that are half interesting, having some dialogue. And it's actually like, wow, it's actually almost worth watching. Impressive. Then we get a really weird, awkward cut. Where we've had loads of crossfades previously, it just cuts to black for about 2-3 seconds. Okay, fair enough. And now we're on to the wiping Nib's memory scene. So they're going in and you see, again, with loads more crossfading, exactly what they're erasing, or the trauma about being attacked by the eye alien and all that kind of stuff, and her poking her eyes and that kind of nonsense. And it's all just taken out. And you're like, oh, I wonder how this is going to affect things. This could be interesting. There's certain memories going to resurface over time, or, something like that. A little bit of possible intrigue there. No. The very next scene, like literally the very next scene, I swear it's a crossfade, is Nibs waking up, talking to Wendy, and then basically Wendy telling her all the memories that she's just lost.
What, are you retarded?
Because Nibs doesn't remember any of it, Nibs is now like, what the fuck? And Wendy's like, they've wiped her memory. Magnificent. Magnificent writing. Just, chef's kiss. The fuck? Seriously, the very next scene, we then go to Joe. Joe's making plans to escape, like literally writing down on a map, on a piece of paper, a plan of the facility so he can try and escape. Slightly turns up. They have a bit of that, talking about that. Slightly's desperately trying to get Joe to go to the alien chambers. Like, look, come with me. I've got something I really need to show you. But then one of Joe's old squad mates comes in and takes him away and says they got to go on a patrol. They go on a patrol and we get this useless scene where all the soldiers are walking around and Joe is basically trying to get information about how to get off the island. And then the lead soldier, I don't know if we even got her name. I literally don't know if we even got her name. Just says, look, we've got a good thing here. Stop upsetting the boat. We're here, we get paid. And then Joe goes, but there's monsters here. And the lead soldier woman goes, yeah, but that's okay because I know where they are. That scares, ladies and gentlemen.
I only need to know one thing. Where they are.
Right, thankfully not so much happens in this episode. This is going to be a short episode because not so much happens, really, in all honesty. I'm over halfway through my notes. We then go to Kirsch and he's remote talking to Tootles as he flies back on the ship from the mainland where they've been. He tells Tootles he needs to go feed the animals, stick to the regulations and it'll all be fine. And Tootles like, yeah, I can do that on my own, no problem. And, I get this because Tootles is like this child who's feeling like he's feeling grown up. He wants to feel grown up. He feels grown up because he's got these responsibilities. Like, okay, yeah, I get it. So he goes to the lab, goes in there, and we can see that there's like a system where you open a hatch, put the food in, close the hatch. And that's how they feed the animals. And he feeds the sheep, absolutely fine. No idea what you feed the aliens, but, there you go. And then he goes to feed this new alien that we've not seen yet, the flies. He's got a tray of like ores and metal pieces. So literally bits of metal, like, refined metal, and then some ores, because clearly they found out that the flies eat ores. What I will say is that the edges or the frame of the cage that they're in is made of metal. Whatever. So he's got this tray and he goes to feed them, but the door's stuck and he ends up yanking off the hatch door completely. And he's also like, oh no, I'm going to get in trouble now. I don't want to ask for help, blah, blah, blah. Fair enough. Get that. Yeah, makes sense. He's a kid. He's like, oh no, So what he does is he unlocks the door to the actual cage manually, but rather than being smart and just open the door a little bit and then sliding the tray in with his foot, and bear in mind, even though these are children, they're meant to be intelligent. They're meant to be supercomputers. They're basically emotionally unstable supercomputers is the whole idea behind them. But no, he actually goes in there and sort of walks in with the tray and then kind of tries to hold the door open with his foot. And as he does this, the sheep alien, the eye sheep alien, barges into the wall, makes him stumble, and then the door locks behind him. And you're like, okay, why didn't you just open the door, slide it in with your foot, and then leave? And we're like, well, maybe he wanted to put it on the tray, on the holder bit, so nobody knew that he'd fucked up. But no, he actually goes in there and then just puts it on the ground in front of him anyway. So he could have just slid it in. But anyway, the end result of all of this is he is now locked in the room. He can't get out because you wouldn't want to put an emergency release on the inside just in case this kind of thing happened. Put a keypad on the inside just in case this kind of thing happens. But no, on top of that, he's calling for help. Motherfucker, you've got a direct line to Kirsch. Just phone him up and say, I fucked up. This is going to... you're calling for help anyway. You're going to get... it makes no sense. He's got this link. We were saying like Kirsch is the only one he can speak to. He can't remote communicate with anybody else. All throughout while this has been happening, because the show thinks the audience is dumb, we've got explicit shots of exactly how the screen lights up and shows you it's red, how the light turns red when the doors open, and that kind of stuff. Just so explicit. None of it needed. Complete rubbish. So the fly comes out of the hive thing, lands on him and sprays acid all over him and basically kills him. And then starts feeding on him. His face is melting. It's quite harsh, actually. Bye, Tootles. We liked you, but you're a retard. So now you're dead. In a really unnecessary, convoluted way. There's got to be better ways to write this. And as I say, it just doesn't make sense. Moving on, we then go to a scene between Wendy and Sylvia. And sort of halfway through talking, Sylvia says Wendy, and Wendy goes, that's not my name. My name is Marcy. So she's having, sort of identity struggle. She was happy to be Wendy before, but now probably through Joe's influence, she's Marcy. She's rediscovering her old identity. And there's some cool conversation here. I will say there's some good stuff here regarding the nature of people and machines. And Marcy's like, look, Kirsch has told us that we're machines. We don't have to worry about feelings. All we have to worry about is the true nature of things. And I don't like people. I don't want to be people because people are horrible and people kill and all that kind of stuff. And it's actually quite a good little scene. I've got to say, there's a good scene. I like Cindy Chandler. I like the lady that's acting as Sylvia. I think the acting in this is generally quite good. I really do. It's just the writing that is dog shit. The acting's fine. The production quality is excellent. Some of the editing is a little bit off. I don't think I like it. The directing is so-so. There's nothing particularly amazing there. And I loathe the way that they keep just showing you things all the time that they're telling you, and then telling you things that they're showing you. But the acting and the production quality, I can't really argue. I think it's cast quite well. Certain characters have got more to do than others, and that's probably because some are stronger actors than others. But yeah, it's a good little scene. Proper sci-fi stuff, the nature of people versus machines. And Marcy's like, look, I think it might be better if everybody's like us and we don't have to worry about feelings anymore. And I was like, oh, okay, there's half decent stuff there. It doesn't need to be in an alien show, but there's half decent stuff there. It's now time to say goodbye to Arthur. Obviously, because Slightly has completely failed to get Joe to go to the thing, it's going to be Arthur. And we all know this. We knew this from the trailers when we saw him get facehuggered, but it's now time to say goodbye. So we go to Arthur and he's packing up his stuff. And Joe goes in there. And Joe, obviously, his aim is to get Marcy off of the island with him, to escape with Marcy. And Joe turns up and he's just like, look, I just need you to tell me, because chances are I'm not going to get Marcy out of here. She's going to choose to stay here, or she's going to be made to stay here is she going to be safe? And Arthur has still got access. Arthur has still got access to all of the systems, which is just really, really stupid. And we can actually see Tootles lying on the floor, but he misses it. There's no alarm that goes off because Tootles has been disabled or anything like that, even though these hybrids are worth a ridiculous amount of money. There's no alarm that goes off to show that, you know, anything's compromised in the lab or anything like that. Joe asks Arthur if Marcy will be safe if he leaves. And because we can see that there's literally CCTV recording the audio, a bit of like, you can see like a camera, so it can't exactly, you can just stand in front of the screen. And Arthur says, no, look, it's fine. You know, you can see their vitals and everything. And then on the screen, he types, take her and get out, boat code, blah, 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 blah. Why does he still have access to the systems? Let me tell you a story. There was a company I worked for. I worked there for a few years. And I was the credit controller, amongst other roles. So I had access to the bank systems. The second that I put in my notification to leave, and bear in mind, this is just during the pandemic, I was working from home, so I had a company laptop, all that kind of stuff, access to all the bank systems to do my job. And within, I think, within about an hour, maybe 2 hours, I had somebody turn up, take my laptop, and immediately all of my access was removed as soon as I gave him my notice to leave. Then somebody came around and collected my laptop later that day. And I was put on what's called gardening leave. But basically, I don't have to work my month's notice, and I just get paid for it. Result. Because I had, access to vital company information. And although I had no malevolence or bad feelings towards the company security is the stronger thing. So why would you have somebody you've just fired them and you threatened to shoot them? Why would you still give that person critical company access?
What, are you retarded?
Other than Prodigy is inept. Arthur then shows Joe that he can disable the tracking on all of the hybrids with a simple yes-no command. Because of course you can, because he still has access. Why does he still have access? Anyway, Joe says, yep, thank you very much. Wanders off. He says, you've really put my mind at ease. I can see their vitals. I can see everything's fine. Wanders off. And then Arthur, when he disables the tracking, gets a warning come up that they can't disable the tracking on Tootles because Tootles is inactive. Now it shows him. Doesn't come up anything earlier saying that Tootles is inactive. Just comes up then when he tries to disable the tracking. Why? The writing is so bad. So he goes off to the lab. Slightly standing outside the lab. Morrow's like, look, have you managed to do this? And Slightly goes, I can't. I've tried. It doesn't work. And Morrow's like, right, say goodbye to your mum. I'm going to kill your mum. Is Morrow on the island? Is he on the mainland? How far does this communication stretch? Why he's gone back to the mainland? We've seen him talk to Yutani in this time. How is time passing? How is he able to get back from the mainland to Yutani, meet with Yutani, who tells him that he'll have whatever he needs, then go to the meeting and have the mediation meeting? In all this time, no time has hardly taken place on the island. None of it matches up. He's just left him for we've got to say it's got to take a couple of days at least. He's just left him for a couple of days. Like I said in the last episode, I wouldn't trust Slightly to open a can of beans that was already open, to paraphrase Red Dwarf. Arthur comes up and he's like, I can get Arthur to get facehugged by the alien. He doesn't know his facehugging is just to do his task. We're almost there. So Arthur shows up and they both go into the room together. And then Arthur sees Tootles. He opens the door from outside because that's easy. And then goes to check on Tootles and just leaves the door open. He just has the door open all this time so the fly could get out or whatever. He doesn't call security. He doesn't... Atom said, if you're not out by the end of the day, we're going to fire you. Where's the security monitoring Arthur? Why is he allowed to just wander around? Why is he being allowed to wander into the most important room in the facility, the one that holds, so he could abduct the specimens, or he could take the data and go and sell it to Wayland Yutani? There'd be nothing they can do about it. It's so dumb. How has nobody thought about the ramifications of this? Anyway, we all know what's going to happen. Slightly opens the door to the chamber with the eggs in it. And even though Arthur is nowhere near the eggs hatch and the facehugger comes out. And the only reason I mention this is because you had a human on the Maginot and Nostromo physically open the egg chamber cell thing and didn't get face hugged, even though he literally was like 2 foot away from the eggs. Slightly as to say, open the door by remote. And anyway, the long shot of it is Arthur realises that the egg thing is open, tries to get out of the room, says, like, let me out to slightly. He's like, says, I can't, he's got my family, blah, 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 blah. Arthur says, no, I've got a family too, you can't. And then he gets face hugged. Slightly pulls him into a vent while the fly gets out of the room, puts the vent cover up behind him. We cut to the sheep eye alien, and then we go to Godsmack. Stay away for your music getting out of the episode. That's it. That's it. That's the end of the episode. What can I say? There's a couple of good scenes here and there, but the writing is still absolute dog shit. There was a list of non-secretaries a mile long at this point. And there was a couple I missed from the last episode, so just go back real quickly. We're told at the start of the episode that the Maginot and Nostromo is 17 days from Earth. It then runs out of fuel because the fuel reserves are completely destroyed. We're told that they cannot change the course and it's just heading towards Earth. 17 days, we're told at the start of the episode. By the end of the episode, and there's no suggestion at all that it's sped up or anything like that, it is 4 seconds till impact, and it then pretty much immediately crashes into Earth. 17 days has not taken place during that episode. Grand total of what? Being generous, 12 hours has taken place. Nice one, show. Thank you very much. And that was the least of it, honestly. There's so much stuff that doesn't make sense. And that's just the repeating pattern for the series. And there's some good stuff. There's some good acting. There's a few good scenes here and there. But the entire thing, writing-wise, is just completely destroyed from the ground up. So very, very, very stupid. Unless Morrow has his own agenda, that's the only thing that kind of saves this, and then the rest of it doesn't make sense because he said so many other opportunities to sabotage Weyland-Yutani. From what we can tell, he is loyal to Weyland-Yutani. It makes no sense at all for him not to say, look, I have evidence, or I have seen evidence that proves that Prodigy conspired. The idea that Prodigy don't disable the access for somebody who's fired from their company immediately and allow him access to the most critical lab in the world, and that you've got these labs that, you know, you can just open doors and leave them open, and it's so stupid. It is so stupid that flies that eat metal, and why they eat refined metal I don't know, but they eat refined metal. I can't say anything more, but they eat refined metal. If the flies eat refined metal, metal is something that doesn't go to waste, so why wouldn't you just leave a massive pile of metal? Why would you feed them every day? It makes no sense. You feed animals every day because food spoils. So you can't just leave, for example, for a tiger, you can't just leave a massive pile of meat there for a month because it spoils. But metal doesn't spoil, so why don't you just have a massive pile of junk for them to just feed on over time? There's no thought into it. They've put thought into some of the aspects of the science fiction, as in regards to the dialogue between characters and the nature of the duality of man and machine and everything like that. And some of that is actually very good. I don't want it to be an alien show. But with regards to the actual A to B structure of the writing and what happens, and when you write, you need to go, right, this happens. Why has this happened? Was there any way that this could not happen? What are the situations regarding it? And does it contradict against anything that's been said previously? And that's not happening. As I said, you've got, she's in charging mode, she can't hear us. Motherfucker, we've been told that you can disable their auditory at any time, and you've said the scene before that they last for 2 years with their batteries. Why doesn't he charging? How much has that battery gone down? And they've got charging things on their bed. Their battery lasts 2 years, and they've got charging things on their beds. It's so dumb. It's all just so dumb. And that's the word, unfortunately. That's the word that I have to use. It's dumb. The writing is dumb. Regardless to the actual concepts of the show being quite advanced and high concept, the actual writing in between, it might as well be done in crayon. It just makes no sense. It just makes no sense at all. And it's almost like they've put the children in adult bodies to explain some of the dumb things that the characters do, but it doesn't stop the writing from being dumb. It doesn't stop timelines from not matching up and stuff like that. So yeah, unfortunately, it's just not a very good show. It is that simple. And I've had loads of people go, oh, this is great, this is brilliant. And, you know, fair enough. If you enjoy it, you're the kind of person who enjoys Raymond Romulus. You don't have the discernment for bad writing that I do. And that's fine. I wish I could enjoy the show. I wish I could. But the writing's so bad that I can't. So yeah, that's it really. 2 episodes left. I think it's going to get quite actiony. I think we're going to have a Whale and Yutani assault on the Prodigy Island, as it were, Neverland. But I can't. This show, there's nothing there. It's not good. It's not good. It's not well written in the slightest, unfortunately. And the worst thing is, along with Romulus 2, which we've now been told that Fade Alvarez is not directing, we'll probably end up getting a season 2 of this. So, yeah. Anyway, that's the end of it from me. If you liked what I had, then please do drop me a sub, and I'll be back with another video soon. I have been Critical. Thanks for watching.